Hello, Karin. Welcome.
Hi, how are you doing?
Very, very well. It is a delight to see you again in the beautiful, beautiful islands of Scotland, way up in the north. Where are you exactly talking to us from today?
I am in Lerwick in Shetland, which is the most northerly group of islands in the UK.
Yeah. So, people who are living up there and working up there are the ruggedest of the rugged, I should imagine. And you would know very well because you are an agricultural consultant to some of these people who are growing, minding, caring for the land, the animals, and everything that issues forth from both the land and the animals. Can you explain just for a minute before we get started with this conversation what it means, what you do in your work as an agricultural consultant?
It's quite a varied role, actually. We do a lot of different things to support the agricultural community. So that it's primarily farmers and crofters, especially in this part of the world. Crofters is like smaller holdings, so like small holdings that people would be more familiar with that term. But we can do anything from general administration support, which is record keeping and such like, right through navigating subsidy schemes and application systems, government red tape, to helping them create extra income streams from their holdings through things such as holiday lets or marketing their own meat boxes or having leisure facilities on farm. So it is a really, really wide range of things that we do. But people come to us because we don't speak a language as such. We talk cleanly to them. We have a no jargon policy in this office, which is quite difficult to have at times because there's a lot of jargon in our industry. But people like the fact that we're straight talking, we explain things, and we help them, which is the important thing.
So the plainest words perhaps to use to explain what you do is you help crofters, which was a new word when I started working with you. I had no idea what that meant. So people who have small holdings, crofters, and farmers to make have more efficient establishments, so properties, herds, etc., more efficient land management, to save money, make
Yeah,
money, and have money for the future, and also to obtain money that they're eligible to obtain from the government through various subsidies, etc. Is that fair?
yeah, that would be a good summation of what we do.
Okay. So, the way that you explained the work that you do is not always how you explained the work that you do. And the reason I invited you on to have this conversation, to have a spotlight on you and your work, is because about a year and a half ago, you decided to step into my group program called Loud and Clear, which is a 3-month brand voice and messaging program that helps clients to create a unique brand voice and all of the messaging that you need to then go out and do all of your marketing without having to think about it all the minutes of the day. And so that you can get on and do the rest of your work. And it was a delight to work with you. I'm just going to pause because I think I've just had the Uber request. Of course I have. Okay, hold on. So it's low. We could have just talked 5 more minutes, right? Can you hear Havana outside?
No,
Good. Jesus, Uber's expensive here. Holy shit. I don't want you to access my contacts. No, it's for me. Can you really not hear her? She's so mournful.
I
She's
did
so
just hear her then.
ever so loud. It's 40 euros. It's a 15-minute taxi drive. 40 euros.
What?
That is correct. Just finalizing the driver details. If you could do that a little faster, please. Come on. There are a bunch
Is that
of drivers
based on
who are around where
distance?
she is because she's. No, it's based on fucking Geneva. It's 15 minutes. It's not like it's 4 kilometers or something.
I know taxis here are based on mileage and time.
Yeah,
There's
well,
a
that would make sense.
complicated sort of crossover.
Yeah, and then they add if you have luggage and all that kind of stuff. But no, just let me just say, don't make any noise. She's voice noting me. I'm recording a podcast. If I knew she'd come in and just sit on my lap, I'd let her in. Okay, whatever the voice note said, I don't want to know. I'm actually going to put it on airplane mode so that they can just figure it out. Worst case, they can call a taxi. My mom can pay for it. Okay, here we are. Right, let's begin again. Let's scrap what I just said. Fuck. Okay. All right, here we go. The way that you just explained the work that you do, and that we were just able to summarize it, isn't always the way that you were talking about it. And I know this because about 18 months ago, you decided to join Loud and Clear, which is my group program for wonderful clients like you who have so many ideas and all of the details and complexity of the work that you do and your business in their heads, and just like you had. And it all sort of jumbles on the way out because there's so many nuances to what you do. And working with you both in Loud and Clear and in the Brand Voice Club, which is the container after the 3-month experience of Loud and Clear, where you were able to then put your brand voice to use in your actual business live for 6 months together with me, so that now you've really integrated it into yourself. When we started working together as an agricultural consultant, I imagine you weren't lying awake at night thinking, I really must work on my brand voice. What was it that at that point maybe you were frustrated by, or you were being challenged, you were feeling challenging, and yet you knew needed some kind of support around so that you could get back to the work that you like to do, or so that you could, whatever it was that you couldn't manage to do?
Well, I was at a pivotal point in my business because I got into a stage that it was either go big or go home sort of thing. And to go big, I was going to have to do some serious work to leverage my business. I mean, my main competitor, who's just across the hall, is a big corporate company. And we are now week on week taking customers from them, which is absolutely fantastic. But if I hadn't done the work
That
with
is fantastic.
yourself to solidify my own ramblings, because that's what they were, and make it more concise and resonate with people, then it would never ever have gotten to the stage that it is now. I mean, I've just written a column for the Scottish Farmer, which is like the agricultural publication in Scotland. So I'm about to be published in there on the back of what the work that I've done with yourself and other people to try and solidify my marketing. But that I still don't have a marketing plan. but I have my brand voice guide that I use, and I do use it and I update it. And that says a lot because I have done various courses and stuff over time, and you know yourself. It sits in your inbox or it files in a file in your desktop and you never look back at it. But I do, and my team use the brand voice guide for my business, which is an important thing.
That That is delightful, delightful. And if you're listening to this, you might want to head over to YouTube and just see how wide I'm smiling because when you come through loud and clear, and even when I work with clients one to one, I'm doing some work right now with a new concept client in Geneva, and they're creating an ecosystem, a virtual ecosystem of humans and companies to completely change the face of work in a specific industry in Geneva. And the client that I'm working with was really struggling to explain what exactly the idea was because they have lots of funding behind them, lots and lots of funding. And this kind of had a vague concept. And the more we work together, the more they're able to say, okay, actually, now I see the structure of the whole project emerging. Now I'm able to explain exactly to the people who are involved in my advisory council. I can explain to them what exactly we're working towards and how we're going to structure it. And it gives them something to yes or no. And it gives us a jumping off point to then do everything else. So to hear that, as I'm working with that person, we're working to come to the point where they have a brand voice guide, which is really the unique thing that I developed. And you have now, I guess, saved on your desktop like so many of my clients. And I love that you're updating it because the brand voice guide is like, if you're listening and you've ever seen a visual brand guide, so if maybe you got really excited at the beginning of your business and you created a logo like so many of us do, right? You create a logo and you have your visuals done and it's all exciting and it's easy for everybody to understand because they use their eyes and they look and they say, oh, I like it, I don't, those colors are pretty or that's interesting or whatever. But what doesn't happen either at the beginning of the business or a little bit later on is the process of thinking about just as carefully and with just as much intention about how we're using words. And so to know that you have done all of that work with me, which isn't always easy, and we'll come on to that, and to know that you're using that, it's a living and breathing document, which is exactly what it's intended to be, to know that you're then using that and going forward. And you did start writing. Amelia, je suis en train d'enregistrer un podcast. Dis-moi. Okay, merci. It, it's right in front of the vet spécialiste. I will cancel it and get a pet Uber, okay? Ils ont l'adresse de vet spécialiste, Amélia. Tu ouvres, tu rentres, sors par la porte de devant de vet spécialiste sur le trottoir et puis tu rentres dedans. OK? Quoi? Non. OK. I have to cancel it because it has to be a pet Uber.
Why? The cat's in a box.
Yes.
It's not like the dog sitting on the seat.
No. It's not. But the cat, they just took the cat to the vet and the Uber people told them that they had to find a pet Uber. Otherwise, they didn't take them. And now Uber isn't letting me in. Karin, I'm so sorry. This is really.
No, you're fine. It's okay.
I'm really fucked off, actually.
Yeah, it's just one of those weeks, Anne. Never mind, it's Friday.
Okay, let's do that again, shall we? Why she didn't say that to me earlier when we were on the call. Uberbed. 6 minutes away. Okay. Uberbed. Confirm. Confirm. No answer me. Confirm. Okay. Confirming my trip. I should have paused the recording. Why don't I pause the recording? 16 minutes away. That's a delight. Because, of course, they're right next to the airport where there are 770,000 Ubers. But no, for a pet Uber, they have to wait 16 minutes. Estifanos Matsentu. Estifanos. It sounds like a very Greek name, but Matsentu, not so much. 17 minutes. So just tell her. And I'm going to just call her because she's going to ask me questions.
Oui.
Le pet Uber sera là dans 17 minutes. Alors, allez l'attendre à l'intérieur parce que...
Ouais, on attend. Est-ce que tu as cancel the other one?
Oui.
Ok.
Ok. Et puis, si tu manges, et puis si Mamoun veut aller chercher un truc à manger, ok? Mais là, je peux vraiment plus. C'est la deuxième fois que j'interromps mon truc, je peux plus là.
Merci. Mamoun is pressuring me to know everything, like the color and the type of...
Alors, je t'envoie la photo, ok? Parce que j'ai pris une photo de ce que c'est, ok?
Ouais.
Ok.
Merci.
Ciao. My grandmother's pressuring me to know the number and the type of the car. Yeah, because some random dude is going to pull up in front of the vet and say, hey, want to hop in my car with your grandmother and your cat? I don't think so. I don't think so. Okay. I'm going to put it on airplane. And that's with it on airplane mode. Okay.
Yeah, I put mine on airplane mode and then realised it was still connected to the Wi-Fi, so I switched the Wi-Fi off.
That's what I'm about to do. I just, given my mother's ness, and Amelia's only 13, you know, she looks about 17, but she is only 13, so I probably won't turn the Wi-Fi off, but no one else can reach me other than her and her sister. Okay, so coming back to what we're talking about, I don't know where we got cut off. So let's go back to... Okay. It delights me to know that you are using your brand voice guide, which is the structure that I've created for my clients to be able to speak more clearly about the work that they do. And I adore that you're not letting it gather digital dust in a digital drawer, because you're keeping it alive. And it is really it's like the language encyclopedia for your brand, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears went into it. So it needs to be, it has a lot of me in it, because obviously the brand voice for my brand comes from me. And to allow my team to convey that, I need to keep that up to date, because I change, I develop, the work that we're doing changes at times of year and such like. But no, I mean, it's hard to explain how integral a part it is in what we do every day, because it has so many more sections to it now as well. Because I've put things like template reply emails, or template emails to go out to clients.
Yeah.
So if, rather than me having to write them, they're there. They're there, and Gail can copy and paste them, or Elsie can copy and paste them and send them from me. So the client still has that one-to-one without me having to be one-to-one with nearly 200 clients, which is not possible.
That is amazing. And no, it's not possible. And the thing is, when we first started working together, and it's funny because you have this larger than life presence, even across a screen, this immense presence and so much power and so much knowledge, right? And care, true care for not only the admin side and the making sure that things are running efficiently on the croft or on the farm, the care for the animals, but you also have this piece which, if I think about from far, far away, if I think about the archetype of the northern Scottish Isle farmer, I don't immediately think of a big Care Bear snuggling up to all the mushy things in life. I
No.
think of people who are weathered and tried by nature, very much so, because of your geographic location and the vagaries of you know bureaucracy and ever-changing laws and requirements around the thank goodness requirements around the environment, but then what that means for them if they've been farming for 50 years and now they can't do things that they had to learn how to do something that they weren't doing before, and now they can't do that thing that they were forced to do. And it becomes really complex, and you have this amazing blend of all the knowledge, none of the bullshit, and the care for the humans that are behind it. And you're in many ways, you're the bringer of that humanity, that gentleness, that hang on, if you don't care for yourself, no one else is going to care for your cows. Or if you don't share this knowledge with the rest of your family or the team, the day you need to just go to the doctor or you want to nap, everything stops, and that's not sustainable. So it was really interesting to me to meet that force in you, and then to learn over time that no matter how successful the business you had already, which you did, it was still challenging to step out more, right? It was still challenging
Yeah.
to go after that column in the Scottish Farmer magazine and to make yourself known and to take stands that were perhaps somewhat feather ruffling. Can you talk a
Mhm.
little bit about that process of going from where you were and stepping into, as a result of the work that we did together on your brand voice and messaging, stepping into that next version of you?
Yeah. It, I always had like two personas, and I liken it to the way Beyonce speaks about herself when she goes on stage. You've got Beyonce and you've got Sasha Fierce, and I very much had my work face and my own face. Um, and my work face was probably at that time a little bit more demure and appropriate and suffocating, for want of a better term. But coming to work with you, I learned that I don't need to suppress who I am to fit into a box. I never set this business up to be a big corporate entity. That's never what I wanted to do. I wanted to help people. And by working with you on the brand voice, it peeled layers off of who I was trying to be to bring out the true me, which allowed me to build my business the way I wanted it to be, not because it has to be that way. Um, the first thing that people say whenever they come in through that door is, God, you really are who you are. Because the voice that comes across in any of the social media or articles that I write is my voice, because that's the way I write. And there is no bullshit round about it, pardon the term, um, but going through that journey, oh my goodness, to realise that you don't have to fit in the box, you don't have to sit in the corporate chair, even down to the realisation that all of the stuff that we've been doing about the digital world and all the rest of it doesn't matter to my business, because the
Yeah.
majority of my clients aren't digital. They are real people out there. And that's a totally different language that you're using, because you're doing it in print or you're doing it face to face or radio broadcast or whatever it may be. Um, so it was a journey, but it was a journey that was well worth doing, because it has allowed the the next step to be taken to leverage the business. Because you assume that you're coming to do a course on brand voice, which, yeah, you are, and it's a brilliant 12-week course, and the six months of building your guide was just something else. But it's almost like a self-discovery course at the same time, because you're finding yourself in business. I mean, I'm 18 years in business now this year, so we're speaking 15 years, 16 year plus, and I'm sitting there going, wow, I didn't realise about this about myself, and I didn't realise this about my business. And just by working through the process that you have, you take a step back and you go, right, okay, so we can do it this way. We can say these things. It's not. I, I'm known to drop an expletive or two. It's who I am. It's what I do.
Let him
And
rip, Karin. Let him rip.
I never used to do it with a client, but I get to the stage now. It's like, fuck it. That's the way it is. And if they're not happy, they can go across the hall to the corporates, and they can be treated like a number, or they can sit here and have a coffee and a chat and be told the truth. It's up to them.
And you know that the day that they step in muck and their boot comes off when they're tending their pigs, they're not going to say, oh, fiddlesticks. You know they're dropping an F-bomb and whatever else it
Yeah,
is that they might have gorgeous expressions up in the Shetland Islands. Like,
yeah.
you know, right? You know they're not, the cow steps on their foot and then does a pivot turn on them. They're not going, oh, Nelly, move off. Like, that's not what happens.
No, you have a horse. You know what it's like.
Yes, and he's broken my toe, so I really, really do know what it's like. Although to be fair, I don't think I swore that in that moment because I was more intent on getting him off my toe. Um, yeah, and what is fascinating in hearing you say that is that if so for you listening, it may sound like, or you may conclude that in doing this work together, what I invite clients like Karin to do is to bring more of themselves to the brand. And that's true to an extent in that your brand comes through you and from you. But where I see the biggest freedom coming for you to express yourself and for you to not conform to whatever ideas we all have inherited from going through education systems and so on. The biggest difference, I think, is saying, hang on a second, your brand is not you. It doesn't matter that Karin McGivern Agriculture was founded by Karin McGivern, sorry, and that you are the head and the spokesperson and the active consultant on the brand. It doesn't matter. It's not, when people buy your consultancy services, what they get is your help accessing the funding that they're entitled to, or your team support in making sure that all of their herds are dewormed at the right time. And that's what they're getting. They don't get your pinky finger whenever they buy time with you. And so what I noticed with you, and I notice this with every single one of my clients, is that when I say, hang on a second, it's like kids, they come through you, from you, but they're not you. They're of you, but not you. And your brand is of you, but it's not you. You have an adorable French bulldog. Well, your French bulldog isn't part of the deal when people come in to work with you. Your family, as in its various permutations, isn't what they get. Like, all of those things are part of what make you who you are, but you only bring the relevant parts and the parts that you've consciously chosen through the work that we did together to express through the brand. Is that fair to say that that was one of the pieces that helped you get that
Yeah,
freedom?
yeah, definitely. I mean, like you say, it comes from rather than being. Um, so it's finding that work language, that these are the structures that we want. This is the pillars that we want, especially when you're speaking about content pillars and things like that. Because you know what you want to say. We've all got an opinion on everything, but is that opinion controversial? Are you going to upset somebody? Is the language going to be offensive? And then you look and you go, right, okay,
Do
this
you
is what we're
care?
doing. No, no, it's the bottom line. And that was what I realised, is I don't care. I have an opinion.
Yeah.
I am entitled to my opinion, and it is that. It's my opinion. Doesn't make it fact, no more than your opinion is fact. It is your opinion, and you're entitled to it. And this is the thing. it was such a wake up call, because you have, like you say, you have all these preconceived ideas about things, and your brand is who or what you want it to be. And part of that is to do with your industry, part of that's to do with your audience, and part of that is to do with who you are.
Yep. But not only, as you say. So you have gone from being this successful businesswoman in a really tough climate to like physical climate. And also we were just coming out of the pandemic when we worked together. It's still in the pandemic, really. And at the time you were running your business from your house and you were living on the mainland. Talk a little bit about some of the changes that you made during that time, some of which I think we can tie to the work that we did together, some of which are just life changes.
Yeah.
But there were some pretty
Um,
major things that I
well,
remember
like you
happening.
say, I was living on the mainland.
Mhm.
I was commuting through the areas that I work in. I work through the whole of the north of Scotland. If you imagine the Scottish map, you've got the whole of the north, the Northern Isles and the Western Isles. That was my main target area. Wasn't
Can
doing
we just
much
take a
commuting.
second, though? I'm sorry. Can we just take a second before we move on from that? You say that like it's not a big deal. I have discovered in following your Instagram that a commute is not what people say in Toronto, where I worked a long time before coming to Europe, isn't like the getting on the GO train and 40 minutes later you're sitting at your desk. Oh no. When you're commuting from the mainland to the places you're commuting to, could you just roughly, how long is that commute?
From Aberdeenshire to here is between 12 and 14 hours overnight on a boat.
Hours. Oh my God. Yeah. Okay. So you were living on the mainland, just doing a little casual commute, 14 hours to get to some of the people on some of the islands, and then just a little bit more casual commuting. Also, can we just talk about the fact that it's not even like it's an easy 14 hours. You're on a ferry in rough seas. Like you are one seriously badass, honestly.
Well,
Okay.
the, the areas that I support are severely neglected for support. And that's one of the things that I'm really passionate about, is that why should you be penalised because of where you happen to live? We live in a modern world now, and it made me giggle during COVID because the pandemic hit and all these companies closed their doors and there was no service. We'd been using Zoom for years because we had to. We were serving people across the north of Scotland. You can't physically go to the Isle of Lewis to go and see one man because he's having problems with his sheep records. Or to the Isle of
Wow.
Barra. As much as I love the Isle of Barra, you can't just hop in a car and go to the Isle of Barra. It's a day trip and more to get there. But that was the thing. That's the thing. That's why I focused on those areas, was because they are underserved. And it was
And have all the same needs, if not more, because they are underserved, right?
exactly. I mean, we have so many challenges here in Shetland. Um, Remoteness is the biggest one, apart from haulage
Yeah.
costs. I mean, the cost of
Yeah.
haulage to such a remote place is unreal. I mean, we're very fortunate at the moment that we have 24-hour daylight. It's absolutely fantastic. And then we've
Get
got
so much
all these,
done.
yeah, there's all these great things going on at the moment, because there's just been a yacht race just finishing. Started The first boat started coming in yesterday lunchtime. They've come from Bergen to here. So there's 44 yachts coming across the North Sea, and then we've got tall ships coming in July, and there's been the biker festival for midsummer, and there's been all sorts of really unique people arriving on the islands, and everybody's so chatty and friendly, and it's like, why wouldn't you want to be here?
Yeah, exactly. And when you are there, you need the support. And so, what a beautiful offering you have to the people who need just as much support as those who are in Surrey in the south of England, or in, Ireland, or wherever it might be, anywhere around the world. So, you we were talking about the changes in the time that we worked together. So we've talked about the fact that you were doing this gentle commute And then what happened? What were I can think of 3 big changes just off the top of my head that you put into place during the time that we were working together, some of which, 2 in particular, I think that were directly connected to the work we did.
Well, I upped the support round about me as well, which was a big thing, because to enable me to
So you hired a
leverage
team.
my business, I took my admin assistant from, I think, 8 hours a week to 20 hours a week, and then brought another lassie in for 8 hours a week, because I needed that support. I can't do it all, and that was one of the things that I realised, is that to up the ante, if you like, I had to bring the team and I had to build the team. And by building the brand voice guide, that was another tool that they could utilise, because it allowed them to be able to stand on their own 2 feet. Because I do have sample texts, sample emails, sample scripts for phone calls that when they start, or when they've got a new task to deal with, they're there. That's how I would deal with it. That's what I would do. Take it, run with it, put your own spin on it, that's fine, but this is what I would do. And it saves me having to be there and hand-holding, because if I'm not hand-holding my clients, I'm not hand-holding my team. I shouldn't have to.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that's why we have these tools. So while the brand voice guide is, of
it empowers them.
course it does, but while the brand voice guide is one of those things that helps me to run my business, it also helps my team to run my business. But then we moved to Shetland, and the team became remote. And then I upheavaled my whole life and moved here. I left everything behind and came here and set up an office, which I hadn't
Beautiful
had,
office, which if you're watching, you can see.
which is in the rural centre of Shetland. This has got the livestock market. You can't see the window that's behind here, but you'll see on my Instagram occasionally I'll put up things when there's stuff going on, and we are in the hub of everything agriculture in Shetland, which was a bit daunting.
Smart.
Because, yeah, it was a smart move. And like I say, it was a bit daunting because my biggest competitor is across the road. Literally, I come out of my door and he's there. But fuck it, I don't care.
Yeah. And I remember you getting ready to go to the island. And I remember the nervous anticipation / terror of, oh shit, I think I'm going to rent this space. And genuinely, you were able to get front row center office space where you just look out your window down onto the livestock
Mm-hmm.
market, literally in front of your window. If you open your
Yep.
window, you can hear them. And even if you don't open your window, you can hear them, if memory serves.
Yep.
And you really are able to just walk down. And you were saying how a lot of the work that I do is with clients who are operating in the digital space. And yes, you may have people finding you on the digital space, but I'm going to wager that the bulk of your clients are not taking a little coffee break in their giant John Deere or their Massey Ferguson tractor and flipping through Instagram hoping to find an agricultural consultant, or checking out what different businesses have said on Facebook. They have physical, pressing, urgent, climactic, season oriented imperatives and deadlines, and that is where their life is. And so they're hearing from their nearest neighbor 25 miles down the road that you have done some work for them and helped them get a grant, or that that they've realized that they needed to take better care of themselves because you've given them a swift kick with love to look after themselves as the greatest asset in their business, or that you help them, fluidify some kind of a process, or you took some of the work off their hands, the admin they couldn't be bothered to do because maybe, numbers and accountancy and all that stuff is, or record keeping is so tedious and exhausting for them, and they don't want to do it at the end of their 24-hour daylight workday at the moment that they're making the most of, right? So
Yeah.
to see that you were also able to adapt and to say, okay, right, this is the brand's voice. These are the messages. This is how we are going to speak as a brand. And to apply that in what we would now, funnily enough, call more traditional settings, i.e., talking to people
Uh-huh.
and getting that column in the newspaper was in the magazine was big, but you were also in a newspaper at the time when we were working together. Was it a
I
different
still
publication or
am.
the same one that you
I have
still
a
use?
quarterly column in the local paper. It's
Yeah,
probably a
but you
full.
say that like it's a big thing, like in the local paper, but it's the paper that everyone reads. It's not like you have 7 papers to choose from. You
No,
have a regular column in the paper, which means that quarterly, is that right?
yeah,
Or monthly?
quarterly.
Quarterly, people see a full page of things that come out of your brain about new legislation, political goings on, challenges that are happening in the Shetland Islands amongst crofters and farmers. And you are building a name for yourself with confidence based on the messages that you and I co created through that group experience. And it is growing your business. Yes?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. The work that I'm doing with the writing, the work that I'm doing, even just standing, having a chat with somebody outside. The lady that runs the facility next door, which is the local slaughterhouse, quite often I'll stand and speak to her in the morning, and somebody else will come in, and then I'll end up having a 5 minute chat with them. Not necessarily about anything in particular, but that 5 minutes, the next thing you know, the door's getting a knock, and oh, can I make an appointment to come and see you, or can send a message, um, and word of mouth by far is the biggest thing. I mean, in the last month, I've had maybe a dozen new clients come directly through word of mouth. Just
And for a
there's
business of a business
yeah,
the size of yours, a dozen new clients a month, and that is potential. The clients that you have don't need you one time.
no,
The admin they have to do, and the grants they're applying for, and the potential improvements and greater efficiencies, and livestock management, or we've had conversations about fertilizer. We've had conversations about chemical management generally. I mean, it was fascinating to work with you because I got to put my horse loving, animal loving, farm gallivanting hat on and just learned so much about the industry and how it works in the Shetland Isles that I've never visited yet, but plan to. And to really learn a lot about the work that you do, your clients, what their needs are. And I'm able, far, far away, to explain exactly what you do because you took the time to find the words. And what's beautiful about what you're saying is that it really is those conversations, the 5 minute conversations where you say it's not about anything in particular, but I would absolutely lay down tons of cash and bet on the fact that it might not feel like it's about anything in particular, but you are able to super clearly and confidently say, this is what I do. Or, yeah, I've got enough us upstairs. Stop by for coffee sometime. Just the confidence to say, I'm here when you need someone, give us a ring. That confidence maybe wasn't there before because you know exactly what your wheelhouse is, how you show up in it, the play that you do there, the things you don't do there, who's welcome, who you don't want to see. And that gives you so much confidence.
but that was the other thing, was that doing the brand voice work gave me the confidence to sack some clients.
So good.
and
So
and
good. And what
that
difference
was
has that made in your business?
it was revolutionary. It really was. I mean, there was one client in particular who was just an absolute energy drain. Every time you saw the name coming up on your phone or in your email inbox, you're like, oh, here we go again. And it's never just one thing, it's everything. And it was like working for the Samaritans. You know how you get these Samaritan helpline? It was like that some days, and I'm like, I can't take this anymore. But then deadlines would be missed, and information wouldn't come in on time, and whatever else. And I'm like, I'm wasting my time. And he couldn't keep boundaries, and I was too flexible with my boundaries. And that's the one thing I'm finding now, is that there's the line. Don't cross it. because you'll just find there's a closed sign up. And the life balance that I'm having now is so much better as well, because like you say, finding that confidence to go, no, I'm not putting up with your crap. You want to deal with that, you go and take it somewhere else. It's not for me. And it was a challenge to get rid, because there was a long-term relationship there as far as the business was concerned. But it's done, and it's just opened up so many doors, because I now have energy to focus. And I didn't realize how suppressed I was by one business. It's like, wow, it's just unreal. But that came from the work that we were doing and finding that confidence. And it's like, just, you don't actually realize, it's only sitting speaking to you now. It's like, wow, these things all came about in the weeks, months after doing all this work.
Talk to us about the energy savings, time savings, mental gymnastics savings that having your clearly defined roadmap, encyclopedia to your language and to your brand's voice and to your messages. What difference has it made for energy, for time, for mental well-being?
Oh, I don't like to use the same word again, but it is like a revelation. Having that clear, consistent guide, and the content pillars, especially that bit, especially that when I am actively marketing the business, because we've sort of pulled back from that slightly at the moment, because I don't want to build too much momentum too quickly, because we've still got some foundation stuff to do in the background, which is fine. But when we were actively marketing and actively using digital platforms and things like that, right, we have the best part of a content plan here, because we've got our pillars. It was all there, it was all mapped. It wasn't like, oh my God, here we go, I've got to do this again. Oh no, it's Facebook again. Oh no. It wasn't that dread, that no, I'm gonna go and paint the ceiling instead of doing my content marketing. Because I would find any job to do other than do it. The fact that it's there and I know I can pick it up. I mean, even today I could sit down and I could do a week's worth of posting, because it's guidelines, it's not topics, and you do a lot. I've done a lot of different courses over content marketing and things, and by far the strongest one is this content pillars that you do, because it gives you the topics, it gives you the standpoint that you're taking. It doesn't give you the posts. You're not focusing on, right, this is what you have to do this day and that day and the next day. It gives you a framework to go and go, right, this month our theme for our socials is politics, and we know that this has happened and this has happened and this has happened, right? Okay, and we look and we find the bits, and it's all there, and it's so easy, and it's just the energy isn't being drained from you to go and do your marketing, because the tool's there to help you. That foundation is there. It's like doing SOPs. It's not easy to do. Don't get me wrong, it's far from easy to do. It is hard work in finding the right language and the right words and context and all these bits and pieces. I mean, it took weeks. It wasn't something that just happened overnight. It took weeks and weeks and weeks, and there was a lot of tears at times, because it was frustrating, because you just weren't getting it, and then all of a sudden it was like, okay, light bulbs come on, we've got that bit, we'll work with that bit. But the fact that I know that I've got that, it's like your security blanket. It's there. So if ever I'm feeling that, right, okay, I'm not sure where we're going with this, I can go back to it and I can go, right, okay, we've got that. Right, we'll do this. And it's become such an integral part of the business. It's now part of our business documents. We have a folder in our shared OneDrive that has the SOP manual. It has the color guide and fonts and brand guide there. It has the brand voice guide in it. And these are working documents that we work with all the time to keep our business on track the way we want it. Because it's so easy to go off at a pivot. But
It is, and often those pivots are, they feel really tiny at the beginning, but when you start messaging a little off, you start positioning yourself a little differently. I often say to my clients, it's like when a pilot sets their course, and if the pilot sets the course 1 degree off at takeoff, say flying from California to New York, by the time they want to be at New York, it might have started out as a 1 degree difference at the beginning, but after you fly whatever it is, 5,000 kilometers, you end up in Florida instead of, if you've aimed 1 degree too far south at the off. I'm sure that if you're a physicist or some kind of geographer, my metaphor is inaccurate technically, but you get my point. It feels like not a big shift at the beginning, and then very quickly it you're way over here, and people are misunderstanding, and suddenly you're attracting clients that you're actually really not fussed to work with, and you don't really like doing that kind of work, and that's not really what I meant, and so what is brilliant, and when you do all of the work, and this is, you were talking about how it's difficult, and that's why I think it's so important to have a guide to take you through. And I don't mean like a physical guide like the one that you have. I mean a human who gets to know your business and who is able to have a conversation with you and flag, I'm not sure that this is really clear, or you're using a lot of jargon here. What does this actually mean to people who maybe aren't doing all the admin pieces? Or what about, farmer X who's only just meeting you for the first time and doesn't necessarily know all of these words? Like, it's not how they talk about the things that they need to do. What language are they using? So to be able to have this physical guide, but also a human who's saying, hang on, I see jargon. Is that really what you mean? Wait, if you're building a messaging structure, which is what you're talking about, the jumping off points, what we do is we create, I like calling them buckets rather than content pillars, but it's the same thing. I just like the idea of a flower bucket. So we have these buckets or these content pillars, and you stick a label on each of them. It's a tiny label with really big writing, so you can't have like a sentence. It's just like one word on the label. And so, Karin, you mentioned politics, and that was a big deal for you, was taking a stand in your industry and talking about certain things that you find unfair, certain things that are too complex, laws that are coming in, or politicians that are taking stands that are going to be damaging to the population that you serve, or to humans who live in Scotland or the British Isles in general, who are, being fed by the farmers that you serve. And to know that one of your labels is politics, so one of your content pillars or your buckets is politics, and then you have 3 main messages about that one thing, and then each of those messages has again 3 messages, so you end up with 12 messages about politics, and we do that 5 times over, so you end up with 60 messages that are your jumping off points, and all of which you can combine with each other, because you might have a message about politics, then you might have another one about the environment, and you might have a message about politics and another one about self-care, and you might do one about the environment and self-care, and you start to cross-pollinate, and suddenly you have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of on brand, on message, jumping off points from which you can create content, and you do not have to start from scratch every time. And that is what I hear you saying today, and what I've heard all of my clients say, is the relief of not having to start from scratch every damn time you've got to create something, and your team also not having the great likelihood of getting it wrong if you're asking them to create content, which you then are like, oh, they just don't get it. Oh, that copywriter I hired, one more copywriter just doesn't get it. Of course they don't get it if there's no it to get. If they just have to somehow by osmosis be inside your brain, then you're going to find that you end up rewriting work that you've paid someone else to do, and then you're resentful, and it just builds this whole negative spiral. I'm guessing that doesn't happen in your business anymore.
No. Whether I'm doing the content or someone else is doing it, it's 99% of the time it's bang on the nose. That 1% of the time is when I've probably not explained myself fully to someone, and then I've had to go back and go, right, this is actually what I was meaning, so use this area rather than that area. But no, the lack of frustration is just something else. It really is.
Look, I love the smile on your face. You have such a big smile on your face. And it's work that you did, right? I was saying to a client today, I'm working with at the moment this client in actual person, which is a delight. And I lost my train of thought. Hi, ADHD brain. Anyone else? Anyone else in the world have this happen to them? Working with this client today, I was saying big smile, the relief. Yeah, she was
The
she was
work
just
that
saying,
you do.
yeah, she was just saying that it's the clarity and the savings of energy and of spinning round and round and round and round. Because once we establish what your values are, not in the way that you would normally be like, here, pick from a list of values, but we really spend some time digging deep into your values and why they matter to your business. And we're brand's values, not all of your values, because you don't bring them all. I like to talk about it creating like a sandbox. This is the sandbox that you're going to play in, and the characteristics you choose for your brand voice. And this was tricky. It's tricky for everyone. I remember it being tricky for you because there was the like, am I allowed to show up this way? Am I allowed to, to be a little bit bullshit and to drop the odd F bomb? And yes, you are. And so to decide you have this sandbox, this is the space I play in, these are the things I'm going to do in the sandbox, oh, and this is how I'm going to communicate. Once you have those guidelines and guardrails, which is what's in your brand voice guide, you can hear Karin, you're just the relief, and then the relief, and then the momentum and the impulsion that it gives you. And I've just watched you grow and grow, and I love that you are in a position, and have been for a while, I think, to just be able to step way back from marketing and do the actual work you set up this business to do, because you have so many clients already that you serve, and your business is of a size, if I'm understanding correctly, that's working really well for you. Thank you very much. And you don't want to grow the client roster anymore until you're sure that you have all the things in place so that their experience will be just as excellent as it is right now. And then maybe you'll grow if you decide to grow it. But what an extraordinary place to be in.
Yeah, it really is. And if you'd said to me when we first started that we would be sitting here looking at this the way it is now, it's like, nah, it's not happening. There's no way that's happening. I mean, the fact that I took yesterday off because I could. Yeah, I just felt like it, and so I took the day off because nothing was pressing, and there was, yeah, take a day off. Why not? Um, being able to just go and do things that I want to do. So it's not just that 24/7 I have to work because I have to bring the income in. And that's the other thing, is that the stability of income has improved because we all go through that peaks and troughs and all the rest of it. But by having the foundations built and communicating better to the clients that we already have about what we do, because there was a few oh my god moments when I discovered that clients had gone elsewhere for services that we provide. So I very quickly learned that I need to up my game with my monthly newsletter and tell them what we do, remind them what we do.
Yeah.
So that's been a bit of an eye-opener too, but income streams are definitely steadier than they have been probably for a long, long time.
And hearing you say that at time of recording, because these episodes will be published after the summer break, at time of recording, the UK is in a deep recession. Things are extremely difficult at the moment. I don't know firsthand, but I would wager that people who run farming establishments, crofters, are in no way spared the difficulties of energy prices, high energy prices. I mean, you think about running a farm that has to feed livestock, and that all those lights on and the temperature control for the hens and what I mean, these are not businesses that are rolling in so much affluence that it doesn't matter to them if their energy bills go up. It can end them, I'm sure. And so to hear that you, in that climate, in this current climate, have a more consistent income, and that you can gift yourself a day. I feel a little emotional actually hearing you say that you can gift yourself a day off because you need it and you feel like it. Because the Karin that I started working with 18 months ago, as you said, that would have been completely unthinkable. And so to you who are listening, hear perhaps just how possible it is when you get the fundamentals in place that maybe aren't as sexy as the next photo shoot, which makes me laugh because I just had one early this week. Not as sexy as a new photo shoot or a new zippy website or whatever other people tell you think that you need to have done. To do the fundamentals that can sometimes be challenging is going to change your business.
They're
It's
the
going to change your
key.
life in the future.
They're definitely the key. I mean, there's two things that I have done in the last 2 years that have been key to both personal and business growth. And your brand voice guide, my brand voice guide is one of them.
Yeah. Yeah. What would you say to someone who is listening to this, has been in business for a while, and is maybe thinking, I don't have time to do this, or yeah, maybe I should do this, but it's a nice to have, or maybe is considering working with me in some capacity? What would you say to them?
Do it. Pay your money. Sign up. Because you don't realise it's like taking on a member of staff. When you take on that first member of staff, you convince yourself that you can't do it because you can't afford it. Where's the income going to come from? Oh, I'm quicker doing the things myself, blah, 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 blah. We make up all these excuses. We've all done it. There's all this terror around actually doing it. And it's only once you have that member of staff and you've got the systems in place and you've taught them how to do it that you realise, right, okay, I should have done this 18 months ago. And this is the equivalent piece of work that, yeah, you should do it. I'm not saying that you shouldn't. And yeah, okay, it might be a bit of a vanity thing, you think. But until you have that piece of equipment, that tool, you don't know. It's like having a hairdryer. We can all use a towel to dry our hair. But we're not going to go on to a podcast to having towel dried hair. We're going to go on with our hair blow dried. Why would we run a business without the correct piece of equipment? You have a
And the
laptop, you have a
scramble,
mobile
right?
phone. Yeah, it's just it's a no-brainer. It really is a no-brainer because once you have done the work, you're going to go, now I understand.
And the confidence, right? You will have
Yeah.
the equipment, so the brand voice and messaging guide that you will build gradually over the 3 months that I will guide you to co-create. And it really is a co-creation. I get my sticky fingers in your messages. And if people need more messaging sessions one-to-one with me, they can always add those on. And it really, I become an extension of your brain, and I get inside your brain in many ways. And so there are two of us that know the ins and outs, the complexities of the business, and P.S., all of the emotional entanglements of the business. And this is a part that I recently became certified to do some energy clearing work, which, had you said that to me, 2 years ago, I would have, shrugged off and said, "Bleh."
And that's
But
worth doing as
that
well.
piece, yeah, that, and you and I have done some sessions of that, and that piece of addressing some of the underlying friction that we have inside of ourselves that we don't even recognize, that frees up the spaciousness to have that confidence and to find that fluidity of momentum. And also, when the confidence that naturally comes, I don't work on your confidence. We don't have a module on confidence. But what happens is that when it's like the difference between if you've ever done a performance or you've given a speech, if you've rehearsed it, you have one kind of nervous. And if you haven't rehearsed it, you have a whole other kind of nervous, right? It's a different lived experience. It's a different confidence. It's a different enjoyment. And it's a totally different potential, that because of the confidence that you have grown yourself in doing this, because what you're essentially doing is demonstrating to yourself over the 3 months of working together that you have your own brands back.
Yeah. It's I've lost my train of thought there. There was something I was going to say and I can't remember what it was.
That never happens to me. That's totally fine. Karin, it has been a delight. I think it's time for a cup of coffee. You
Yeah.
are a wonder, and it is so thrilling to watch you grow and grow and grow. And you and I haven't had a catch up in a long time. So I'm really grateful that you agreed to do this as a recorded video and audio conversation and catch up. All of the best of good things. May they continue for you. And thank you for sharing your lived experience and some of your growth. And for anyone who's curious to hear more of the wondrous Karin and all of the things that she puts out into the world, which are so thoughtful and powerful, I will put all of the places you can find Karin in the show notes. And if you were curious about working with me, come and have a conversation with me. I'll put a link to that in the show notes as well. Hope you've enjoyed this episode, and I'll talk to you next week.